and look at. So, how are you, my dear Marie?
I am great. I'm really good today. I'm back in the UK.
Oh my God.
Um yeah, for the next couple of months, and then we'll see what happens. See what happens. I've got plans to be elsewhere, but just flowing with yeah, where life is taking us right now. But yeah, I'm feeling really good. I'm feeling very present in my body. Um, yeah, a lot has happened over the last few weeks,
Mm.
and energetically, um, I've been holding steady in my own energy.
Mm.
Haven't been swayed left or right in any direction. In fact, I think I've become even more grounded because in the midst of chaos, uh, being grounded is what's most important
Yeah.
for me. So I'm loving that. Yeah, I'm feeling really good to, yeah, be present in where I'm at the moment. I feel it, I'm beaming, I'm smiling. But yeah, I'm feeling really good, really, really good. How are you doing?
Good. I'm doing well. I am feeling good. I'm definitely feeling like I'm moving into a more elevated space, a more elevated
Mhm,
time of my life. And yeah, I definitely feel fresh and new energy. So
mhm,
yeah, I'm excited to have this conversation.
mhm,
And there's been a lot going on, I feel like, just in this community of women who are tapping into their femininity and everything. And so I feel like
mhm.
this is a necessary conversation.
Yeah.
And yeah, for those who are here now or watching later, I guess we'll introduce ourselves as who we are as founders of her Emerald Club.
Mhm,
So I'll go first. My name is Olivia Grant. I am a co-founder of her Emerald Club with my sister Marie. And her Emerald Club is a global society for women to tap into the highest possibilities available to them. And we do this through a plethora of ways within our own kind of offerings of coaching or guiding and separately leading women within our own offerings. But we have a collective offering within her Emerald Club, which is coming soon. I don't know if you want to talk a little bit about what her Emerald Club's going to be developing into um, as a brand and as a community. I guess we can talk about that a little bit later. But her Emerald Club is here to band together the collective of women who are stepping into their power and who do want to collaborate and unify and transcend all the things that have kind of kept us out of our power. And so, yeah, I'm really excited to be leading this with Marie and sharing everything that we have to offer. So over to you, Marie.
That was so beautiful. So, for those who don't know, my name is Marie Antoinette Price, the sister of Olivia Grant, and it's it's funny because both of our paths are very aligned, um, unintentionally. But it's a divine alignment that takes us along a trajectory that um, supports a much bigger cause. And we both recognize that and take that very seriously, but also navigate this path very playfully and freely as divine feminine beings. So, like Liv, I would say, a divine feminine guide. So I've shied away in more recent times of using the words coaching or mentorship. Um, whilst they most definitely add value and hold weight, the direction in which I'm going feels a lot more full of flow and guiding, as opposed to actively healing anybody else, because I truly believe that we all heal ourselves. And so, working with people, guiding them to their own realizations, their own recognition is what is where I'm at this present moment. So, Divine Feminine Guide is how I refer to myself at this present moment. And also, I think the beauty in that is that we can get into this part of the conversation later, I suppose, but being detached from identity in a way that is beautiful. So if it suits me for now to use that term, then that feels great. And if in 2 hours' time, 2 months' time, 2 years' time, I flow into another direction, I embrace that too. So Divine Feminine Guide is is what I'm doing and in part who I am. And as the co-founder of her Emerald Club, um, this is we'll get into it later, but it's a powerful, powerful space. It's a powerful space for women to really come together and realize their highest potential and possibilities that are available to them regardless of what their background is, what they've been through. Women who know who they are, know where they're headed, and want to be surrounded with other like-minded individuals who really are trying to live their most fullest life experience. So it's an amazing um, honor to be a part of something like this and to be leading and co-founding something like this with the beautiful soul that is Olivia Grant. So yeah, we've got so many offerings, so many things that we do independently and collectively. And this is a new branch on our trees.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And yeah, I mean, we can dive right into this week's webinar topic, which is the Divine Feminine Uprising, discernment within unity and collaboration. For me, this has been a topic that has come up recently as something to be brought to the forefront, just as I'm seeing the collective in general and the collective of women in general um, kind of open themselves up to um, higher levels of light and love and wanting to step further into their power. Um, and there are women all over the globe who have so much to offer. I've always said magic happens when women come together, and that is all types of women, you know. And so um, I think there's something to be said for when women can kind of release their perceived differences and come together in a way um, that really assists one another. Like just thinking about all the different types of women there are all over this world and the information and the knowledge that they carry or the ancient wisdom that they carry through their lineage that once shared can create so much power. And I feel like I have seen women kind of separate themselves from that unknowingly at times, creating their own kind of wanting to stay in their own kind of groups of what they know. But I see that as out of fear, you know, and I feel like we're in a time where it's imperative that we come together regardless. I don't know how you have felt with this kind of topic, especially in recent
Okay,
times.
okay. So it's a big one. It's a big topic. It's a loaded topic. And there's we're in a time where there's heightened sensitivity and people, women, men, whoever, are feeling there's a shift happening, a global shift, a shift in the collective consciousness, shall we say. And historically, people have come together, women have come together to form groups to advance their systems and societies, to protect and preserve, whether it be culture, ancient wisdom. It's kind of what we do as humans. You know, we create tribes, um, and whilst that most definitely is very important and holds weight, um, there's a lot of systems and tribes that are in recent times, in my opinion, are being set up or have been set up, like you said, that um, has arisen out of fear. And more specifically, the last couple of weeks. particularly online, there's been a lot of conversation about what's happened post US elections, and that has created some turbulence in the online space. And what's beautiful to see is that with every shift that takes place, there's an abundance of women that realize their power and the fact that external circumstances and situations are always going to take place, but it's diverting back to self and understanding in this moment with the knowledge and the wisdom and the power that I have. I know where I stand on certain things. But at the same time, there's plenty of other women who are highly triggered by the movement. And so, what I've noticed is a lot of groups popping up that um, I would say people have really good intentions in terms of understanding that community is the way forward, but the discernment around creating those groups isn't so much there.
Mm.
And I'll get even more specific because I think this is the platform to have open and honest and transparent conversation, right? Being a safe space. Um, I've seen a lot on Black Threads. So that the feed on Black Threads about coming together as Black women specifically to support one another during this time. Now, whilst I most definitely hold space for that being important, what has been on my heart, heavily on my heart, is that we must be discerning because inviting everybody, and I'm talking specifically about the Black community, into your space isn't being discerning,
Mm.
right? Inviting every energy into your community isn't being discerning, regardless of race, culture, identity, whatever it is, gender. It's there has to be a deeper level of discernment in order for you to really create a space that is healthy for you as individuals. And I think at this present moment, I've seen a lot of people kind of grasping at wanting to create a community out of fear rather than standing in their power and saying, yeah, I need community. I want community. There's beauty in community, but how to create that community, how to connect with those people, the discernment around that, I feel has been lacking. And I've really wanted to address and speak on that to really remind people, remind women of the importance of the discernment when um, triggered by such situations. I don't know if you want to comment on that. There was a lot in there. I've kind of simplified it, but in essence, there is a lack of discernment in creating community that I think um, should be really addressed.
Yeah, I think I definitely agree with everything you said just there, wholeheartedly.
Mhm.
And I think um I think that kind of banding together, especially triggered by a time that is heightened in emotion, it's we have to be careful of or be mindful of whether we're operating from a place of fear or from a place of empowerment. And I feel like when Black women have been banding together, especially, something like this happens, it's triggering. There's a lot of trauma involved as to why this fear kind of, or why this trigger even arises. Um, and so it can kind of lead you into trauma bonding instead of banding together with women out of empowerment. And I think that's something to be really mindful of, the trauma bonding aspect, because if you're intending to elevate and move from an elevated space, it's so important to make decisions from a place of love and from a place of knowing your power and not from a place of fear. Because while I've seen that, Black women have been coming together and supporting each other and following one another, there has been an element of kind of a what I have perceived as a villainization of other races and cultures within that, which doesn't that adds to the element of, okay, this is coming from a place of fear, this is coming from a place of trauma, rather than from a place of power. And that's not to say that there's absolutely so many reasons why Black women would band together, and absolutely why reasons why they should, especially in terms of cultural similarities, actual cultural similarities, um, and things that you can resonate with one another on in terms of your own elevation. But with that, doesn't it's just important to sit with yourself and kind of ask yourself where you're coming from and how what your perception is on the rest of the human race while you're doing that. Um, And so, yeah, it's more than anything, it's with everything. It's about the energy behind everything, right? It's about the energy, it's about the intention. Um, and while we all want to elevate and ascend and really tap into our divinity, it's can be so easy to, especially when you don't even realize that what you're doing is actually trauma bonding, you're slipping into um a lower operating state that is not actually serving you. It's not forcing you to challenge certain beliefs or challenge certain triggers or challenge the reasons why you're responding to things in a certain way. I do strongly feel intuitively that this, a lot of us have been speaking about this new era and a new timeline and ascending into the 5D and all those things. But with that comes with some um, serious time with self and serious time thinking about what do I actually need to release in order for me to actually get to these states, what kind of beliefs, what ways of operating. And a lot of the time it's going to be uncomfortable, especially because as Black people in general, we have so many reasons to be wounded, so many reasons to be hurt, so many reasons to trauma bond. But at some point, you have to say, okay, in spite of all of that, in spite of all the ways that I've been hurt, I'm still going to operate from a place of love. I'm still going to operate from an elevated standpoint, which doesn't mean that I'm abandoning myself or abandoning my people. It just means that I'm open to seeing things from an elevated perspective. And I feel like it's a tough thing for the Black community as a whole and Black women, but it's necessary. It's absolutely
Yeah,
necessary.
I think, oh, I feel everything that you've shared. No, I think I feel everything that you have shared.
Yeah.
Um,
And we have
so
when
so many points.
when
Go
you're
ahead,
when
go
you're
ahead.
done, Zalia on the line. I know that Zalia feels like she got some things to say because that microphone off, and you're absolutely welcome.
For real, like there's everything that you said has come from a place of love, understanding, desire for healing, growth, compassion. And I think that's really important because um, it can be easy to say, well, stop the tears, stop the crying, and ascend, right? But actually, what's important is holding space to some degree for the understanding of the experience, right? But also, the next level is recognizing that you are not the experience, right? There's a level of transcendence that has to take place in order for you to ascend. And when we're talking about there's a shift taking place, um, shifting to towards a 5D, what I would love for, I'm going to speak for our people as black women. What I would love for Black women to do is understand that that's not limited to race or culture.
Mm,
That's collective consciousness. That's
mm,
humanity.
yeah,
So when you're seeing it through your lens, your skin suit, your cultural suit, that's awesome. Utilize this as your experience, but understand you have to expand.
yeah,
Expansion, and I think I posted a thread along this at some point yesterday or today, but expansion is actually the journey of extension. ascension.
Yeah.
So as you expand your understanding, your acceptance, your level of embracing all and other things, that's how you start to ascend, and realizing that coming together as divine feminine beings, regardless of what you look like, regardless of where you come from, regardless of whether you have the same cultural understandings or not, like that's a beautiful thing. There's so much to be learned from cultures outside of your own, places outside of your own, experiences outside of your own. So there is an important aspect to coming together as a community, but then there's existence and levels beyond that. And I'm encouraging and imploring people to really, yeah, see where they're coming from. Am I doing this? Am I coming together as a community out of fear because we've got to stick together, we've got to band together because this is going to happen if we don't, and us as a community, we don't come together. Da, 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 da. That fear driven
Yeah.
versus embracing our community and our culture and saying this is awesome, but so is learning, expanding, experiencing, coming together with people who are from other cultures, other tribes, women who want to come together with other women. And I think that's just really, 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 really important.
Mm.
Um, but yeah, ascension, shifting dimensions, like race and culture is the last on the list. I'm really sorry to say. It's not, it's not up there. It's not up there. It's just we can go deeper, but on a
It's
on a deeper
literally so
level,
many layers.
there's on a deeper level, it has its importance, but it's also a tool used to keep us from growth, from
Yeah.
Mhm.
ascending, from expanding, because you become limited to that lens. Rather than appreciating the lens and saying, yeah, I'm going to utilize the tools and my ancestral roots and my culture and my history to grow, you can actually get kind of pigeonholed into looking at things and only seeing it from a very small perspective that actually hinders growth in so many ways. So, Zelia, I don't know if you had anything you wanted to share on this.
Yeah, yes, you guys are on it. Like I'm getting literally chills over here. I'm just like, yeah, y'all are on it. But like I feel like as a collective, our biggest thing right now is how we are identifying with the experiences that we go through. Because what I've noticed is a lot of people strongly identify with the trauma. Like they are focusing so much on it that they're constantly in this cycle and this loop of literally reliving the trauma over and over. And I feel like when we get to a point and a realization within ourselves that we don't have to identify with any of the experiences that we've been through. And like you said, we have to come back into the soul remembrance that we are the observer of the experience and that the experience does not is not the end all of who we truly are to our core, you know. So it's almost like people have been accustomed and conditioned into going through hardships or challenges or very traumatic experiences, and what happens is we hold on to it and we kind of use it as leverage, like what you said, like it's like a form of a bond. Like we look for these things in people and we feel like that's how we're supposed to connect with each other, but we are beyond traumatic experiences. We are beyond that, you know. And ultimately, when we do come back into that remembrance that we are the observer and that there is a lesson in all of what we go through and all of what we experience, it'll be a lot better for us, you know, as far as like the collective, because I've just really noticed that like people love just identifying with it. It also kind of falls into the victim mentality. We still feel like victims. We still feel like we aren't capable of stepping into who we truly are and embodying that power. Because can you imagine all of your life you've just kept identifying with all of these typical bad experiences or very traumatic experiences, and that's all you know, right? It's all you know. Can you imagine trying to let go of that? A lot of people like to grip on it and really, it's like they're handcuffed to it. It's like that cycle, it's like that's something we have to break, that's something that we have to also let go of. And it's okay for us to not identify with those experiences, although we went through it, but it was for a reason, and understanding the reason is should be more than enough as to why we should stop identifying it, why we shouldn't want to create connections and form connections based off of trauma. I feel like that's extremely hurtful to us because we are better than that. We are literally beyond that.
You
Beyond
know,
it.
I'm actually so glad you're on the line today, Zelia, because it's it's really wonderful just hearing you speak like this and speak of this, especially being Black and in America, because I feel like Maria and I have our perspectives as Black women. And I feel like there's a lot of trauma within Black America. And so many of what you have described as people wanting to hold on to those experiences. The Black American experience is very different to the Black British experience. It just is. It just is. There's a lot. I feel like the trauma goes a lot deeper. Over here in I'm in America. I don't know. I don't sound like it, but I'm in America. The trauma goes a lot deeper, and I feel like some people may listen to us and say, "Well, you're British, so you don't get it."
Right.
And so it's wonderful to hear you um, kind of double down on what we have said, and I actually have a question in that, and that is, has has this always been your mindset? What has been your experience in America? Because to get to this mindset that you have now, you have to have released, or I mean, I don't know what your upbringing was like, but I feel like there's a lot there within Black Americans. So I guess I'm saying, what had led you to this kind of realization?
So for me is I noticed the patterns. I noticed how the trauma bonding, I noticed how it was affecting me, my mental, it was affecting me emotionally. And me being in tune with myself, I could feel how draining it was. I could feel how I really wasn't embodying my full authenticity. I really wasn't being who I truly was, and I was only going with the cycles of what society was telling us. And over and over they show it in the movies with the slave movies, and it's like they're literally trying to keep us in a cycle. And whenever I see a pattern of a loop like that, I ask myself, why? Why do they want us in this cycle? And how is it benefiting us? Is it benefiting us? So like I started with just because I was in the loop, believe it or not, I was definitely conditioned into like, oh my gosh, that experience happened. Oh my gosh, how could I possibly allow that to happen? And oh my gosh, and having friendships and relationships with people where it was our foundation was literally trauma. Like that's how we started the connection. It was literally based off of like the traumatic experiences. And I realized I don't like that. I don't enjoy stuff like that. I don't enjoy coming together with people. And the first thing we're talking about is very deep things like that, And it's like, although it is, experiences that we have dealt with and that we've been through, it's not it's not the only thing that's out there, you know. That's literally not the full truth of any of this. So it's like for us to only look at one thing in our reality compared to the whole entire thing that's out there, it's like keeping yourself very closed-minded, very narrow-minded and closed off, and limiting yourself and from expanding to who you really are. And I didn't like that. My soul didn't like that. It feels draining, and it feels like you're in like a circus almost. Like you're on, like you're playing this role, and like you have to, create these connections, and it's not even a connection at that point. It's more of an attachment. It's like we have literally gotten to a point where we are looking for people to attach ourselves to that have been through the same traumatic experiences with us. And I did not like that. I didn't. And I asked myself, why am I doing that? Why? And this is another reason why I feel like, people in America have a hard time letting go of things. It's literally like a handcuff, like they're handcuffed to the trauma.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it's like, I didn't like it. I didn't like the fact that I felt stuck in a loop, and it was almost like people have a mindset of that they have to be stuck. They have to be in that loop. But no, you don't. And once I realized I have the choice to get out of that, to break free from that, and to literally be who I am. Like I don't have to feel accustomed or feel conditioned into doing what society has programmed us into doing. I don't have to agree with those things. I don't have to identify with that. And I know for a fact that I am way beyond that. I'm way more than that. And that those experiences have helped me so much. So it's merely a shift in perspective. If we had a different perspective on our experiences and why we went through them, and had just a level of understanding, we could easily let go of those things. But, it takes work to understand why we went through what we went through. And it takes a level of understanding of really just sitting with yourself and just figuring out why you identify with those patterns. Who told you to identify with them? Who told you to hold on to them? What environment are you in that is also mirroring in the parallel? It's like a parallel to those things. So it's like just being mindful and really asking the whys. Why are you doing that? Why? How does that make you really feel? And ultimately, when I did that, I said, that does not feel great. In my heart, that does not, that doesn't feel like me. That's not me. Why am I doing that? So it's like, I feel like a lot of the reasons just comes back down to us questioning things. Just question it. Once you ask that one question, it really does set the foundation for a lot of things to just start being like, wait, that's a great question. Why are we like that? Why do we operate like that? Why are we operating from fear? Why are we allowing people outside of us to put us in such a lower vibrational energy to where we are not embodying our full power? You know what I'm saying? So it's like when you ask those questions, you just open up the answers. And a lot of people don't ask questions, they just go along with what everyone else is doing. So it's like, yeah.
That is
You
just
go ahead.
yeah. Yeah, so like, where do I even begin? Um, First things first, like no coincidences. This is divine alignment, you even being on this call at this time. So I'm super happy and grateful that you decided to follow your instincts to be here today, because have really your impact is greater than this conversation. it's going to extend and reverberate out into the universe and whoever else gets to be blessed enough to listen to this conversation today. You said so many things there that everything just resonates with me. I think some people are comfortable in this discomfort, and to start questioning means questioning things in their experience means to challenge what they've come to believe to be their identity. Um, I'm gonna pass over to you, Liv, because there's someone in my background, and I'll jump back
Okay.
on in a second.
Yeah. Um, yeah, like you said, Marie, no coincidences at all. I wholeheartedly agree with everything you have said, especially what you said about questioning. Like, I feel like a lot of the time, sometimes we feel like we are doing all the questioning, but there's always deeper levels. There's always deeper questions that you can ask yourself. And I feel like there are things that we have really strongly identified with that it's not even occurring to us to question. And that's where that transformation happens, because when you've strongly identified with something, to now challenge it feels like you're challenging your whole existence. And I feel like that's what a lot of people go through. It doesn't occur to them to challenge certain things, challenge certain beliefs, challenge certain ways of operating, because they have embedded this belief that this is who they are. And if you have that embedded belief that this is who you are, it's not going to occur to you to question it. But then you have to take a step back and realize anything outside of yourself that you have identified with, it's not you. Like, we are operating in these vessels. We've chosen these particular skin suits for this incarnation for whatever reason, for whatever powers that they have. And that's great. But behind all of that is who we truly are. And I feel like it's scary for a lot of people to question that. But I feel like these conversations are important, because in the instances where it just hasn't occurred for people to question certain things, conversations like this come into their field and they're like, okay, maybe I do have some further questioning to do. Or, it didn't occur to me to question that. Am I going to be courageous and brave enough to do it? And I feel like especially in this time now, it's so beneficial for various groups of people to just really question themselves when it comes to identity and how they are operating, and the trauma that they may have experienced throughout and within their culture, and whether or not it's time to transcend that. But yeah,
Yeah,
go ahead.
yeah, I just want to jump on. Something that came into my field was um, you mentioned Liv. There is a difference between sort of the Black British culture and the Black American culture and experience. There's overlapping similarities,
Yeah.
and I think the African American experience has closer proximity to Jim Crow slavery that the Black British experience doesn't. And for to keep it simple, because of such experiences, trauma, certain levels of trauma are deeply ingrained in a way that isn't for most Black British people, right? But also, um, identity, I've come to understand through my experience, um, is looked at and experienced very differently as Black people from two different parts of the world. And as an observer of um, how identity is kind of played with in the African American experience. And Zilly, I would love you to chime in on anything that I say following. Um, it's it's a very I've noticed that there's a lot of compartmentalization when it comes to identity in a way that isn't experienced in the Black British culture. An example is politics. Whilst every country has their politics, there isn't in the UK a the battle isn't as ferocious amongst the population, right? We have our perspectives, um, but there's a somewhat of a lightness that isn't so in the US experience. And whilst don't get me wrong, whilst it's most definitely taken seriously, um, binaries are a very real thing in US identity in a way that isn't quite the same or isn't mirrored in the same way in the
Yeah.
UK. And so I feel like it makes for a harder, to some degree, maybe a more challenging process to separate yourself from identity. Um, but if I look at it in the context of the African American experience, because within your traumatic experiences, um, people tend to cling to what gives them some form of hope and comfort and perceived power. And to recognize that and to let go of that takes a certain mindset, a certain spirit, a certain way of looking at things that um, will cause a shattering of your perceived identity and a need to completely rebuild. Even something as simple as what you were saying before, Zalia, about being the observer of your thoughts and experiences, right? Like, that's some wild shit for some people to even comprehend. What does that even mean, right? Like, observer of the thoughts. I am not my experiences or all my thoughts. You can have a thought and then you can observe and separate yourself and check yourself and have a level of self awareness. Like, that's some profound stuff for some individuals, right? And like I said, I think one of my superpowers is the ability to look at things from a million perspectives. And I know a lot of people can't do that. I think that's something that Liv has as well, the ability to, I can have my perspective. I can also understand that my perspective isn't truth, it's my view into something. But also, I can put myself on the other side of the sphere and deeply feel connected to the perspective that somebody else is experiencing. And so, because of that, there is a level of compassion that I have. But beyond compassion is a passion and a desire to remind people, to remind women that there's power beyond the hurt and the trauma bonding in creating that community because ultimately it is destructive.
Mm.
It's self-destructive. It's destructive to those you have. What was the word you used? You didn't say connected. You said attached. That was the word. To those that you have attached to. And is that really the goal? Is that what you want to experience? Is that what you want to reverberate out into the universe, into the planet, into the world?
Mm.
We want to empower, right? We use this language, but we need to check ourselves and say, is it limited to those of my culture?
Right.
Is it really? Should it be? You've got to answer that for yourself. But for me, the answer is most definitely no. I want and I love healing the collective. I want every person, every individual, regardless of who you are, what you look like, how you identify, to feel empowered, to move in their power, to honor themselves. I want that love to really pour out into this entire universe. But because of my how I've incarnated, and my connection to the divine feminine, I've an even deeper desire and love to really empower the divine feminine.
Yeah.
And I would love for others to realize there's just so much power and beauty in connectedness, like with people that don't look or experience the world like you do.
Yeah. It- you know, I yes, 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 yes to everything you just said. And it's like right now we are in a time of a collective divine feminine uprising, right? Um, and that all that means is that this feminine essence and energy that has been kind of snuffed out in this world for so long is coming up to create balance in the world. And so many women are waking up to themselves, to their power, and to their gifts. But in order for this to truly be as impactful as it needs to be, and for women to truly be able to come together and feel empowered by one another, um, we have to let go of, and not even just let go of, we have to transcend the trauma. You have to transcend the trauma. You have to let go of the parts of you that so strongly wants to identify with the trauma and so strongly wants to operate from that trauma. It's so much magic happens when a woman does that. Because as women coming together, that's already magic. It's coming together with women who look like you is magical. So imagine coming together with different groups of women to share knowledge, to share
Power
magic,
on power on power
power
on
on
power on
power on
power.
power. That is what is needed. It's not a for this divine feminine uprising isn't for a specific group of women to just stay within their trauma bonding and try and empower one another like that. It's for the whole collective divine feminine essence to recognize one another and say, I see you. You may not be in close proximity with one another all the time, but you have that space, you're holding that space for that other woman. Go ahead.
I just wanted to add, because of any ladies that may be joining or listening to this at a later date, we're speaking on specifically on Black culture um, globally. And what I want to be clear on is the fact that this is our experience, right? We can't speak on the perspective of, I don't know, European culture or other cultures that aren't like us. So when we speak about the challenges of, um, the like embracing the divine feminine within our culture, we can only speak from that lens. So it's not to say that other cultures don't have their challenges or their experiences, because I know that can come up as well. It's like, well, Black people this and Black people that. Yes, because I am a Black woman and I can speak on this experience.
Yeah.
Celia is a Black woman, she can speak on this experience. Liv, you are too, right? So I just wanted to be clear that yes, all cultures have their challenges, but because of the beauty of our experience, we can speak deeply on this particular angle. And I think it's important that we raise um, the challenges as well as speak on the most beautiful aspects. But we must be able to stand on those challenges without feeling that we have to talk about the beauty at the same time, because
Mm,
what needs to be dealt with needs to be dealt with.
yeah.
We can't
Yeah.
water it down sometimes. This is a conversation for, really encouraging us as a culture, as a collective, as a community to transcend beyond our trauma. Point blank, period.
Yeah.
Does that
Yeah.
make sense? So I just wanted to add that bit in.
Yeah. A hundred percent. It makes sense. And it's, relating to the Black experience, our experiences as Black women, we know that there's a lot of heaviness there. I feel like around the world collectively, it's known that there's a lot of heaviness and trauma there when it comes to the Black experience. And it's like we don't have to align with that anymore. Like you said, Zalia, like it's a choice. A lot of the time people don't realize it's a choice, and so much is fed to kind of keep you in that loop of separation and division. Um, Even regarding, what's happened recently with the election and stuff, and the percentages of people who voted here or voted there, and now people are utilizing that information to segregate themselves. And it's like, guys, do you not see who is feeding you the information? Like, ask some questions out here. Ask some questions out here. You've given statistics on the internet, on the TV, and now you're harboring hate in your heart for a fellow human who is just outside and ain't got nothing to do with that shit. Literally, and who you don't even know is probably a ball of light, but you've allowed something to penetrate you enough to feel like you can't hold space for anybody else who doesn't look like you. It's not divine. It's not expansive, and it's so it keeps you in such a low space when you are more than that.
Yeah.
More than that.
That is,
100%.
you brought that up because I wanted to touch on specifically when you said just seeing where we're getting the information from. You know, that's extremely important because most people aren't aware that the media is heavily controlled. The media and literally everything, and especially politics. And a lot of people, like I said, they just go with what they're told to do. The news told them to go get all these things and to go do this and to go do that. And they follow. And one reason why I feel like we are so conditioned into just blindly following things is ultimately, what is it called? Post-colonialism. Ultimately, it comes from that.
Yeah.
But what I've noticed is we have constantly been telling people since we were children, to blindly follow authority with no understanding of why we're following it. We're just told to just do it just because I said so. That's like a common thing that Black parents or Black families love to use. They love to use that term, because I said so, not understanding how damaging that can be. You don't want to, have someone blindly following you all because you said so. You would want them to understand why, you're suggesting what you're suggesting, not because, you want to control them and what it is that you think they should be doing for themselves. And ultimately, it honestly just comes back to self once again, like knowing who you truly are, like not even on some not even on some, like, let's take the spirituality out of it. Even scientifically, learning about your brain, learning about your body, how it functions, the power of it. Because a lot of people don't even understand the power of their tongue, the power of their mind. A lot of people aren't aware of how we naturally operate. And on top of that, when you do bring in spirituality and you start to be the observer and you start to see things from a grander perspective, it you can see how everything is staged. And it makes sense because what the election and all of this politics stuff has honestly opened my eyes to is people are following right into the trap. And they want us to be in separation. They want us to be in fear. They want us to hate one another. And people followed exactly that. Right after the election, all you saw on social media was people spewing hate, spewing fear. Oh my gosh, for this and that. And who told? And like, my thing is, they were mentioning all of these things that they want to, why they should become president, and all of these different things, right? They're giving you like a false sense of hope. But it's like, once again, like when we come into the realization that we are our own saviors and that we cannot look for someone else to do all of these things that we want to happen, and as a collective we have to make that happen for ourselves, people will find themselves in that constant loop of thinking that a president is going to do anything for us. A
Yep.
president ain't going to do that. And they haven't been doing that for a very long time, an extremely long time. So it's like people still don't understand who they are. And I feel like that's where it ultimately starts. And we're just blindly told to follow all of these things and not question it. And it's like they're doing a really good job. They really, a lot of people fell in that trap of being very fearful and literally spewing hate. And we all should know that spewing hate, and regardless of like where you fall, whether it's red or blue, you should know that if you're spewing hate, that's not of God. That is not of God. That is not of the divine, the most high. That is not of source. Source is love. God is love. And despite so many people being tuned in with like religious or a form of spirituality or however way you connect with God, people just forget that, you know, God is love. God is literally love. And if you are not in alignment with love, what are you in alignment with? You should be asking yourself, okay, this has me in fear. That tells me right then and there that is not of God. Should I really be following that? Should I really be allowing myself to be in a frequency to where I'm not in alignment with God? That's
Mm.
not, yeah, it's not a it's not it, you know?
Yeah, you have hit the nail on the head with all of that. And it's been what Liv and I have been speaking on with each other over the last maybe week or so. And ultimately, this this time, the elections specifically, has really made super clear who's about that life. With you can cut it down with a knife, and there's a clear separation of those who haven't truly fully embodied their divine feminine essence. There's been those, I'll say specifically for me, more so on Threads. I really like using that platform, and there's been a clear separation of those who were absolutely unmoved and unfazed by the outcome, just stood in their power, continued pouring love and light out into the universe, regardless of what was going on and what was going down. It was clear as day. And then those who were um, triggered, and then not just triggered, but spewed the hate essentially, and the fear. And I'll always give grace because with a lot of things, with many things, there's you can be triggered by something, but then the level of self-awareness kicks in pretty quickly, right? When you're about that life. We're human. There's times where we may slip,
Yeah.
but people weren't catching themselves. People weren't
Mm.
catching themselves. So it became very clear that, oh, okay, you haven't quite got the memo that you are a powerful divine being, that you are a divine reflection of source. And what's going on externally need not shake you to this degree, because guess what? When you woke up the next day after those elections had taken place, everything was still the same. Can we
Mhm.
just remind everybody that regardless of the outcome, that next day you still went to work, you still did what you were doing, nothing happened in your immediate. So going back to presence is always so super important, because fear is what false evidence appearing real, things that haven't actually happened, that haven't actually taken place, but in your mind, you're running with it. You're
Yeah.
creating these fear hate groups because you're fearing what may happen, but actually what you forgot that you're actually doing is creating the very thing that you want by pouring that energy out into the universe, because whatever you focus on, you create more of. So it's
Yeah.
like we can't be sometime-ish with when we want to apply universal laws and principles. They
Mm.
exist regardless.
Yeah.
You're
Mhm.
either doing one thing or you're doing the other. I always say there's no gray area. If you're unsure, it's a no. When you're sure, it's a yes, and you move with that energy in the direction of the thing that you want to create. So with that in mind, it's like we have to remember, like, we're the creators of our reality. If you're pouring this out into your experience, you're actually going to see that in your experience. Hence why I really feel at this present moment connected to Threads in a way, because at this present moment, for me, what I pour out is what I receive back.
No.
And if I see anything, because like with every social media platform and algorithm, you're always going to get things that pop in that you didn't ask for. There's a not interested button, and I'll click not interested, not interested, not interested, because I'm training this algorithm, this platform to only show me and provide and affirm to me the things that I need to have in my experience, in my reality. And I think that's a lesson that a lot of people need to do right now. Reduce the fear, come off social media if that's something that is triggering for you. Come off it, be present in your day to day. tap into the now, tap into the present moment, understand who you are, go back to basics,
Hmm.
Mhm.
forget
Yeah.
the rest, go back to basics.
Hmm.
Separate yourself from society for a moment if you just need to get your head right. But be mindful of those who are spewing that hate out and ask yourself, like you said, Zelia, why? Why is this person sharing doom and gloom?
Right.
And sometimes it can be packaged in a way that is you don't even realize the doom and gloom that they're sharing. But it is, you
Hmm.
know. I really agree with everything, and I feel like the energy of recent events have kind of like pushed people into whatever their dominant frequency was, because it's like you can present in a particular way and be about, like, we are so nuanced as human beings, right? And so you can be in your kind of light and divine energy some of the time, but you can be a person who you let the other side of things kind of, you let yourself get pulled back into that. And I feel like in when recent events like this happen, where the energy is loud and it forces you into kind of one or the other, whatever you have been dominantly operating on, whatever frequency you've been dominantly operating on, I feel like it kind of snaps you into that. And so I feel like that's where we're kind of seeing this huge kind of divide, because as me, for example, as a person who I'm I'm very intentional about embodying my divine energy and making sure that I'm in a certain space, just moment to moment, day to day. And so, as always, with humans, there are times when we kind of shake and falter a little bit. But when this energy kind of erupted, it forced me further into my divinity, even further into it. I didn't. That was just a no-brainer for me. It wasn't something that I had to think about. It was like, okay, there's no time for me to be
Time.
in in that low energy at all. Especially now, I need to keep the momentum. I need to be even more stricter with my boundaries and what I'm consuming on the online space and what I'm putting out. And I feel like that's just kind of similar things have happened for other people, but just depending on how they were kind of vibrating.
Yeah, that I definitely agree with that. Um, and I think this is where we have to be going back to discernment, right? People can present in a certain way, but it's always like how you showing up moment to moment. That's all I care about. I don't care what your overarching beliefs are, your perspectives are. How do you show up moment to moment? How are you pouring out love into the atmosphere? How are you being kind? How are you being self-aware? Like those are the things that I care about. I'm not interested in anything else. You can have all the spiritual gifts and all the skills that you want, but guess what? You can use them for positive or you can use them for perceived negative. Their power is power, but it's
Yeah.
how you apply it, right? So for me, yeah, it's most definitely about being discerning with um who who I'm interacting with, and the energy that I'm receiving, and trusting. Here's the biggest one: trusting your intuition,
Mm.
because sometimes people come into your experience and something, you just get a sensation, you just get a feeling, or you just something doesn't quite sit right with your spirit, but you can't necessarily articulate it because nothing specific's happened, and your mind's trying to logically justify that intuition. Keep them separate. You received it, honor that. So I
Yeah.
think online spaces, places that you go, family, friends, whoever it is, trust the divine guidance that you're receiving about, especially in this time, right? Because it's a trying time for so many people, for so many people. But like Liv said, depends on what your dominant frequency is, you'll either get catapulted into really embracing your divine feminine essence, and embodying that, flaws and all, or you get catapulted into the dominant frequency that has been keeping you vibrating low, even if you on social media have been trying to make it look as though you're not in that space,
It's that moment to
because
moment stuff, isn't it?
it is. It's in the little things that you say. It's the little statements that you make, or how you just so many things. We're very intuitive creatures, so we pick up on so many things. But yeah, I think the key for me is like community outside of the just the cultural communities and the alliances that we're building based off of fear. Because there's nothing wrong with creating those communities and experiences, but you just have to be clear on what the purpose and the energy behind that is, and how positively impactful those networks are actually in your life and in your experience. So yeah, I'll leave that there.
Yeah, I agree. I feel like we, as a collective, when we really start to embody the fact that we are the creators of our own reality, and if you're not creating your own reality, who's creating it for you? And it's almost like, how can I put this? It's almost like it lost. Let's see if it'll come back. But like honestly, it's like what you literally said. It's how can I put this? Let's see. Because I know saying, are you creating your reality? Because, we are creating our own reality every day with our everyday actions and things that we do. But a lot of people, it's not aligned with them, it's aligned with things outside of them. And when you are allowing someone else to create your life for you, it's kind of like, are you really you or are you someone else? It's like kind of asking that question like, okay, am I doing this for myself or am I doing it because someone else told me to do it? Am I
Mm.
doing am I following this path because I feel it in my soul that I want to do this, I want to pursue that? Or are you listening to the news, or are you listening to your family, or are you listening to society, friends, co-workers, people relating to like things within school? Like, are you listening to yourself or are you listening to what other people have to say? Because although we are a part of the bigger, like we are all pieces to the bigger puzzle, respecting our own individual journeys is extremely important because it's not going to look the same for everyone. And when you're not controlling, or when you don't have that level of self-control within your own reality, you want to control everyone else's. You want to go out and say, well, that person should be doing that because internally I'm not in control of what I really want to do. Because a lot of people will say how unhappy they are because they're not doing what they love to do, but they have been told that they have to do the opposite of what they love because that's what's going to bring the money. That's what's going to bring a false sense of security and comfort. But it's an illusion. It's all an illusion. So coming back into the remembrance that you are the creator of your reality, and you don't have to allow anything outside of you to control anything. So that goes for politics, that goes for religion, that goes for literally any social construct. It's all an illusion anyways. We created all of the social constructs. They're not really real. They're only real because we gave them meaning. And it literally said that in the Bible. Like, we give everything meaning, we give everything life. And when you put so much energy and focus into one thing, it festers and it grows. So that's why I feel like, as well, like why people have a hard time of not attaching to trauma and like certain belief systems, because they have built their entire lives around this thing. And like, can you imagine someone coming to some truth about their belief system and how it's an illusion? That can be pretty heartbreaking. But it's like, for me, it's like almost a relief. It's a relief. It's like, wow, like even though I've been, you know, putting energy into an illusion, knowing that you have the choice to get out of that, it means the world to me. It's so like knowing that you have the choice to not participate in the illusion, it's everything. And a lot of people think that they don't have a choice, but you do. You have a choice. And ultimately, when you know you have a choice, when you know better, you do better. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, yeah, coming back to just having the knowledge of self, understand of you are more than what people are trying to paint you as. You don't have to believe that just because like because for example, if I could like use myself as an example, I just left a very extremely toxic environment where it was extremely draining to me, but I knew I knew that I had to get out of it. And whenever it came down to it, of me actually leaving, fear was there. The fear was there, baby. So like you said, I'm pretty sure you said this earlier, Marie, we're still human. We still will feel certain sensations, but allowing those emotions and sensations to not control us and to still continue to push through is everything. Knowing that you have a choice to go past the fear and know that what is beyond the fear is what where you really want to be. And had I had not sat up there and chose to push through that, I wouldn't be in a very peaceful environment that I'm in now. I wouldn't be here. I wouldn't if I didn't take. And people, I think they call this like trusting in the universe and having the faith in the knowing that you are highly supported and favored, and knowing that you can make these choices that go directly against your belief system, and have a knowing that everything will work out for you ultimately. Like, you don't have to continue these same cycles that don't make you feel good. You don't have to be working in environments or being around certain people that don't value you, and you have a choice to break free from those. I feel like people are so scared to break free of the cycles when everything outside of the circle is it's like freedom. It's like a sense of freedom, and people, that's what people really want, but they are very scared in taking the choice and separating themselves from that. So it's like, yeah, it's exactly what you were saying. It's spot on.
I mean, this is, yeah. Yes to everything. I think freedom is, to be honest, in my opinion, I think there's a lot of people that don't truly want to achieve freedom. At the deepest level, um, innately, we know that's where we should be. And there is some form of desire, but that gets overshadowed by the uh, building blocks of societal conditioning and pressures, right? But at the base level, we're free spirits. Like
Yeah.
that is how we innately operate. But in order to get back to that, or I don't even like to say get back to, because it's a journey of like we're always progressing, we're always moving
Yeah.
forward. So in order to uncover that, shall we say, there's a certain level of work that most people don't want to face because it's frightening. It's
Yes.
frightening to no longer subscribe to or adhere to any of the identities, beliefs, perspectives, thoughts um, about what we've come to believe to be us as individuals, and not recognizing that actually we're none of those things.
Right.
We're none of those things. And if I want to choose and swap them out and change them tomorrow, I can absolutely do that. So yeah, there's Liv. I don't know if you had anything you wanted to add to that.
Yeah, I think I definitely agree. I think a lot of people are actually afraid of freedom. They are afraid of freedom. Because as we discussed earlier, a lot of people like to have someone or something telling them what to do, helping them lead their lives. And when people come to understanding that they are their own authority and
Mm.
that they now have to take, because when someone tells you what to do, also, there's like a level of accountability that you don't have to take. But when you fully accept that you are your own authority and that everything comes down to you and your decisions and how you decide to live your life, you have to take accountability every step of the way. And a lot of people kind of, I think, run away from that. And
Yeah.
so, yeah, this this has been powerful. I know we can definitely go on and on and on. I definitely can. Um, but yeah, I know we wanted to keep this under kind of an hour and 30. So yeah, I don't know if anyone had any more thoughts. But this is recorded, so people will be able to kind of watch it and chime in. And as far as her Emerald Club and what we have in store for the future, I feel like there is a whole another video to be had on that. But just know that we are growing a community that will be easily accessible globally, for women who are ready to step into their power, transcend all the limitations that we have spoken on today, and actually collaborate in meaningful and divine ways and start operating like the divine beings that they are. So stay tuned with us. You can join the waitlist for her Emerald Club at heremeraldclub.com. And you can find me on social media at Olivia Alexis Grant. I'm on Threads a lot, and on Instagram. Instagram is I'm on there sometimes, but you'll primarily find me on Threads. And yeah, we do want to tell.
Yeah, you can find me on mostly on Threads as well at Marie Antoinette Price, and then Price with a Y, and then Instagram as well. You can find me on there. But most I have a lot to say and I have a lot to share and I have a lot of love to give and pour out. And I feel like Threads at the moment, I always say at the moment because I know it's owned by Instagram, so there's always going to be some level of interference at some point. But at the moment, I'm connecting with some beautiful, beautiful, beautiful souls on there, and just pouring love out into the atmosphere, love and light. And also, like I always say, I have an affinity for dark femininity. There's a part of us that most definitely needs to be accessed, shadow work, uncovering, rising, embracing all of that. So, yeah, my thing is just embracing divine feminine energy as a whole, and that forms a huge part of that experience. So, yes, I hope that you have enjoyed these conversations, Leah, and for any other listeners that we have listening in the future, which will actually be your present, which is kind of weird, but yeah. And I look forward to connecting with you all at some stage as well. So, yeah.
All righty.
This was very beautiful. Thank you so much.
Thank
You
you.
are so welcome. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. And look forward to having you on future webinars.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Brilliant.
All
Okay,
right,
well, you
ladies.
take care, ladies.